Hey guys, welcome to Black Diesel Garage. In this episode, we hood stack our 85 300D Mercedes with the inline 5 turbo diesel. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. See you guys. All right, so let's hood stack this thing. Couple reasons for hood stacking it. It's a diesel, so it'd be cool. You could see yourself rolling coal. I think it'll do well on social media hood stacked. And also it's a Mercedes, so why would you hood stack one? So obvious thing to do is hood stack it. Another one is the motor does smoke a little bit. I don't think it was very well taken care of. And that little accordion deal leaks. I think there's a leak somewhere under the car. And then of course there's a little bit of smoke coming out the back. So I think you'll breathe easier and maybe smoke less if I just hood stack it. That way you can easily exit. Another reason for it is maybe there'll be a little less back pressure with no muffler and stuff. And that way maybe it'll run a little better too. So in first order of hood stacking it, I'm gonna chop this off, give me a little more room, and then I'm gonna start tearing this all apart. I think what I wanna do is it would be easy just stick a sawzall, chop that off and put an elbow on it. But I think what I'm gonna do is I want that accordion thing out. There's a clamp here, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that clamp off. Probably separate the accordion deal from the fitting there and find a piece of pipe to weld to it. So let's tear this all apart and see if that's possible. So partway through, I realized that these flanges are really thick and I shouldn't tear up that centerpiece and I should just start from behind there. So I went ahead and tore up the centerpiece. Don't know why. But that's too thick as far as I know to get a band clamp and another piece of exhaust out over. I'd have to sand it down to half width. And I figured sanding it down to half width, trying to find a piece of pipe quickly, I could, with a flange and everything. I figured that might be pretty hard to get it to seal and to come up with. So I'm just cutting that off. I was gonna take this off to cut it off, but the bolts get in the way here, can't fit a wrench all the way around it. So I'm cutting that flange off, and then I'll probably unbolt it because I can use an impact that way or a ratchet, whatever. But I'm cutting that flange off and I'm gonna slip a piece of pipe over it, a 90, and I'm gonna weld it on there. All right, so my phone was dead and I continued working because I'm always busy, so I didn't have time to wait for my phone. But I'm gonna go ahead and explain what all I did and show you where I'm at. One thing was I finished getting this out. This had another flex pipe down at the bottom end, which has been busted off for some time. So I had a hole down there, was leaking up here, and well, there's that. And it had a flange end on here, or flared end. I cut that off. The flared end fit over this piece, which was on the back side from that flexible fitting. And here's part of it. It was way too wide to fit over that one I showed you, the other side of this that I cut off. So I shaved it down a little bit. And then I welded it on there. And this piece here is the piece I cut there and welded onto this. And then I needed an up piece. So I went ahead and yanked the exhaust out from under the car. It was actually held by one bracket up here and a little bit of wire on the very back. Other than that, it was just doing nothing. Here's the exhaust. Right in here, there was a bend. So I went ahead and cut at an angle. My angle was like that. I chopped it at an angle because these were not quite a 90. They were more of a 45-degree bend. And I needed a 90. So I cut at an angle. And since it's 45, my cut's also like a 45. So that made pretty much a flat top on it. And I temporarily bolted that in there, got this pipe all adjusted where I wanted it, fitting around everything. And I tacked it on top here, unbolted it, and kind of just laid a bunch of tacks to weld it all together. Because I was stick welding and it's real thin stuff, and I have a fixed shade pancake right here with me, so I didn't want to try to actually weld it out and burn through it, or have to have my eyes adjust with the fixed shade all the time trying to stop and start. So it's pretty much all tacked, but that will hold it. It'll be fine. And then to figure out where it would wind up on my hood, I laid a piece of cardboard in the top of there, put a marker down the center of it with a cap off, just a Milwaukee Sharpie, and I closed the hood onto the marker, and I lifted the hood back up. I had a marker mark right here, so then I went ahead and drilled a hole from the bottom on my marker mark, and that should be centered over my exhaust. Well, now there's my hole. I can take a hole saw with a center bit and I can get my hole perfectly centered. I'm going with a 6-inch stack. I don't have a 6-inch hole saw, I only have a 5-inch. So I'm either gonna have to cut it by hand, or I'm gonna have to go get a hole saw that's 6 inches. Like, as you can see, there's a little curve to this. That's because that's where the bend was. And it comes to this rubber gasket, so that's pretty close to the bottom of the hood. I wish it actually stuck up past the hood just a hair, but it doesn't. I could cut it off and I could add more, but I'm just not gonna. I'm just gonna inset my hood stack down into the hood to where it's like an inch past this one, which I wish there's more of a difference, but I believe it'll be fine. Like I said, I could whack that off shorter, cut a longer piece out of the tailpipe back there, and I could tack it all on, but I kind of like the look. So for now, it's just gonna stay like that for now. I'm gonna go ahead and fire it up real quick here. I haven't got it yet, but I have ordered a 3-inch cone air filter, 3-inch fitting on it. This is like 1 5/8, I think. And what this is here is a rubber Fernco, I believe is what it's called. And here's a piece of PVC. This is 2-inch. This is a PVC 90. And this side is made to slip. I can't remember. This is probably 2-inch OD, outside diameter. And this is probably 2-inch ID, inside diameter. And that makes the outside here almost 3 inches. And of course, this has to be squeezed down a little because it's not quite 2 inches. But this was the cheap way. I'm going from 2 inches on up to the 3-inch air filter, like a lot of things have. And some people might complain about this, but you have turbo boots or intercooler boots on a lot of stuff, and it's just a rubber gasket, and that's, or a rubber boot, and that's all this is. I don't know strength-wise how it is. It's definitely strong enough for this application, and it's thicker. I think it'll be fine. This is just a piece of plastic. 90% of the elbows you go by for this kind of stuff are just a plastic elbow. They're probably a little smoother on the inside than this, but this is made to drain, so it's not bad. And it's not like this thing's pulling crazy horsepower, so this setup should be fine. It's just I'm kind of doing a budget build, and this is for temporary anyways, because I didn't want to buy a new air filter, because the original air filter was going to get in the way of piping it, and it was really nasty. I wanted a new air filter. but I didn't want to pay for one when I do the motor swap into the Courier, it probably won't fit anyways. So this way, I can buy a new air filter that I can use on here, and I can position it any which way so I can have room to slip it in the Courier and it'll still work. So still waiting on the cone air filter, but that's how this is for now. This is where I'm at. The rest of it will be in this video, but for tonight, this might be where I'm stopping. Because I don't have a 6-inch hole saw. And I probably ought to get one rather than just hand cutting it, but we'll see. All right, so I have this exhaust pipe. I don't know how big it is. It's probably 5-inch. I'll tell you later on. But it's mashed in a couple places. It was on a truck and fell off and got ran over. So I'm gonna find a straight non-dented section, and I think I'm gonna cut 8 inches out of it. So I'll do that here. All right, so I got it cut out. I'm gonna lay it out on the car where it belongs, trace it, and then cut out a hole for it to sit in. I'm also gonna lay it on some plate and trace it out, so that way I can cut my rings that will hold it to the hood. So here what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna look down there, center it on the hole, that looks pretty centered. Then I'm just going to trace around the bottom. And then if I cut my trace line, it will slide right down in there. All right, so here the hood stack is. I was gonna make rings for it. I started cutting them out here with my torch, and I had a hole saw for 5-inch, but it was out of round, so it wouldn't cut. So I started cutting them out with my torch. Actually, first I tried with the jigsaw. That didn't work. Torch didn't look good, so I just abandoned the idea. Earlier in the day, I actually needed to take this thing to town, so I tacked washers all around and just stuck it through there to sit there. Well, I decided since none of those would work, I couldn't really get it on today. So it's gonna be like this for a while. The washers tacked on there, and I wound up just sticking some self-tapping sheet metal screws through it. So it'll stay on there, it's sturdy, but that's how it wound up because my hole saws didn't work. This was the original piece I was gonna use. It's 6-inch, but I also had this 5-inch somewhere else, and I figured that'd be a little better. So I grabbed the 5-inch, cut a section out of it that I thought had no dents, but it's got a little dent here. We'll make a better one for the Courier when this thing actually goes in the Courier. We're just running this car because the motor came in it, so we're doing it temporarily. But there it is. I'm gonna show you guys how it sounds. I'm gonna take it down the road. Real quick, I'll show you the inset. So if you look in there, it's hard to tell on camera, but it's about a 1/2 inch past that other pipe. You can see my transmission dipstick and a little bit of the motor. So that's how that's gonna sit. Down. weird noise there. I don't know if it was a tire, if the engine was making a noise from hammering down on it. Tires look good. Might have been the engine stuttering from lack of fuel because it doesn't get good fuel. Well, there it is. Hood stacked Mercedes turbo diesel. Well guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully it's something kind of interested in. Once again, this motor will be going in a Ford Courier project we have. So that'll be kind of cool. So if you're interested in that, just subscribe and follow along and you'll get to see that. So thanks for watching. All the support's appreciated, and we'll catch you next time on Black Diesel Garage. See you guys.